Irregular Haya and Chaya. Okay, these are the last of our so-called first guttural third hay verbs. Really, this is a category unto its own, these two verbs. So we'll look at the verb to be, Haya, and the verb to live, Chaya. And the verb to live is almost identical to the verb to be. So here we have the verb to be. And this is found, the paradigm is found in chapter 37, section 3, 37.3 in Ross, page 269. He doesn't have this in his charts at the end, so it's good to know it's here in the body of the text, because this is something you may want to refer to look up. Now, what can we say about this? Well, they're really not that bad. They look like third hays. A lot of features of third hays. You have a kametz hay there. We have this ta ending, right? Hayita. This, by the way, shows up already in Genesis 1, verse 2. V'ha'aretz hayita tohu vavohu, and the land or the earth was tohu vavohu, formless and void. So if you're reading through the Bible, you get to verbs to be very quickly. What you have here, like third hays, because these are third hays, when you add a consonantal suffix, our third rule for third hays is when you add a consonantal suffix, that the hay changes into a yud, or more to the point, you see the quiescent yud, the original third yud. And that's what the second yud is here. The first yud that we see here is this one. It's the middle yud, the middle radical. The second one is that quiescent yud that shows up. And indeed it is quiescent because it's lost its consonantal value, and it's lost its vowel, and becomes part of the Hittite yud. The net effect here is that you end up with two yuds together, which looks a bit odd. In some other forms we see this as well, like here, or here, and here. So that kind of makes the verb to be stand out a bit, which is not a bad thing. Another thing I've noticed here is that sometimes you have a vocal shava under the hay, which technically shouldn't be allowed or isn't common. Sometimes you have chataf sagol, and sometimes you have patach or chataf patach. So you got all these different options, different possibilities. So it's a bit irregular that way. What else do you want to say? Looks like three hays here. We have segel hay, just like you would expect. Segel hay is characteristic of the imperfect in the three hays. This one here, vayhi, we covered this already. Chapter 18, section 4, on page 139, we mentioned that this here is a temporal marker if it shows up at the beginning of a sentence in particular, or beginning of a clause. And you can also get the same thing here if you put a vav conjunctive, v'haya, something, 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 would set the clause into the future, and vayhi is a temporal indicator to set it in the past. And you often don't translate it fully. You don't say, and it was something. You just translate the next verb in the past or in the future. This could also be, and it was. It could be the past as well. But you can go back to chapter 18, section 4, and look at that. So we've seen those before. Here we have the Jasav. This shows up in Genesis 1 as well. And here we have some more chataf segols. You have the ot ending, typical of third hay. So here we have the infinite absolute with the holum, which you would expect. Then we got this infinite absolute, hayu. I mean, who would ever know that was an infinite absolute? I don't know. So this is something to refer to encyclopedically. You don't have to memorize this, or I wouldn't. A couple of pointers. I already said some of these here. Two consecutive yuds in some forms. Okay, so we see that like here. And we see it here again. The first yud of these two here is the middle yud, the middle radical. The second one is the quiescent yud that shows up when you add consonantal suffixes to third hays. So it looks a little odd, but makes it stand out. Not all forms are tested, or I should have said, not all binyanim. The verb to be is mostly in the kal. I did a quick search with accordance and found this many, 3,500 or so, verbs to be in the kal, 21 in the nefal. So it's very much strongly in the kal. Nothing in the hifil. So verb to be is simpler that way. Ross doesn't show any participles in his listing, and I guess that's because there aren't many. I just found two when I searched, and they look pretty odd. Hoya is a kal participle, kal active feminine singular participle in Exodus 9 verse 3, and niya is nifal active participle feminine singular in Proverbs 13:19. So those are the only two I could find. So it's not a common thing. Okay, so that's Haya. Let's look at Chaya, or Haya, I suppose, if I want to pronounce that hate correctly. It's almost the same as what we had here for Haya. A couple of different forms, different short forms, like this one here is different. We don't have a Joseph, we don't have this feminine plural. I think we had a couple of forms here for the imperatives. We only have one here, whatever. There's not a lot of difference. In Ross, his paradigm in the text on page 269 has Haya right next to Chaya, so you can compare them all the way down the list. So that's very handy. What I want to say about them, almost the same as verb to be. Okay. Not all forms are tested again. Certainly fewer than Haya, but we have it in the kal, the hifil, or the pl in the hifil, nothing in nifal. And I found two participles. Again, Ross doesn't have any listed in his paradigm, so I didn't put any here. But I found two, which is probably why he doesn't put it in, because it's next to nothing. Two occurrences of one participle. Mechaye. So both PLs. You can tell it's a PL because of this vocal shava at the beginning, right? Okay, so there you have it. Verb to be. Something that you want to at least know where the paradigm is, so when you encounter it in the text, you can look it up and check to see what's going on.